Welcome back to CareCast, the podcast from Caresoft, the trusted government IT solutions provider. Subscribe to get the latest technology updates in the public sector. I'm Anthony Jimenez, your host from the Caresoft production team. On behalf of GovExec and Caresoft, we would like to welcome you to today's podcast focused around FedRAMP. Experts have long realized the power of cloud-based technologies to deliver more reliable, scalable, and flexible solutions previously bogged down by legacy systems. As the current administration places more emphasis on the importance of customer experience, cloud has become even more of a valuable asset. In this session, experts explored the benefits of cloud-based solutions, the impact artificial intelligence and other emerging technologies have on the infrastructure, and where more can be done to improve customer experience delivery.
My name is Ann Armstrong, and I'm the VP for Strategic Alliances at GovExec. Our panel is Transforming Customer Experience with the Cloud. Experts have long realized the power of cloud-based technologies to deliver more reliable, scalable, and flexible solutions that have frequently been bogged down by legacy systems. As the current administration places more emphasis on the importance of customer experience, cloud has become an even more critical asset. We're going to explore the benefits of cloud-based solutions, the impact of artificial intelligence, and other emerging technologies, and where more can be done to improve the customer experience. Joining us for this conversation today is Mark Lucas, Director of Cloud Computing at the Department of Homeland Security, Wole Moses, Microsoft's Federal Civilian Cloud Innovation Leader, and Rajiv, you're going to have to help me here.
Ravi Jagannathan.
Thank you. The Senior Director of Global Certification, Assurance, and Trust at Palo Alto Networks. Thank you guys for being here. I'm going to ask each of you to tell me a little bit about what your job is and how that interacts with FedRAMP program. So start with you, Mark, and then work down.
Thank you, Ann. Okay, so I'm the current Director of Cloud Computing Operations at the Department of Homeland Security, OCIO office. Interesting because FedRAMP is fundamental to the underlying security of all of the cloud-based environments that we're leveraging now. So as a part of that, obviously, there's a need to enhance that security once we get an authorization. But the intersection of that is where those environments must stay secure as we ensure the critical applications and services that we provide to the American public are where they need to be in the appropriate time and that they're available.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. So I'm Wole Moses. I work in Microsoft's Federal Civilian Organization. I lead our strategy internally with our partners and most importantly with our customers, the federal civilian government agencies, around adopting and leveraging innovative technologies that can help drive transformation. I just completed 24 years at Microsoft, so it's been a long run, seen a lot. Happy to be here, part of this panel.
My name is Ravi Jagannathan. I happen to lead both the commercial and the government certifications. Certifications like FIPS, Common Criteria, FedRAMP, SOC, ISO. We do, all kinds of certifications around the globe. So, of course, one of the most important certification we do, my group happened to be in the R&D engineering. So we make the certifications happen. And we work in FedRAMP moderate, high, and in the IL5 space. So it's all public. You can see in the FedRAMP marketplace, several of our products listed in moderate, and we are gearing up for a lot of our services are going through JAB high, and we got some services running in IL5 also. FedRAMP is very important for Palo Alto Networks, and we spend a lot of time and energy. We believe it is a very critical program for overall security aspects of the cloud deployments.
Thank you. This will be a question to all the panel, and we can just jump in conversation. Making government services available and accessible is clearly a top priority. What are some of your other top CX priorities right now, and how do they relate to the cloud? Mark, do you want to?
Yeah, I'll start. So it's interesting. We at the department just stood up a first in government customer experience directorate, specifically focused on customer experience and the human-centered design. It's unique because we invested the resources to ensure that customer service continues to be at the forefront of what we do in service to the American public. That team that we've put in place has hit the ground running. to address some of the forefront runners of customer experience that engage with the public, DBP, TSA, FEMA, some of those other organizations who directly interact with the public. But that entire team is actually specifically addressing customer experience across the whole of DHS to a way to ensure and institutionalize customer experience for everyone that we interact with, both internal and external to the department.
Well, I'm going to ask you later what some of the things that you're doing, but will I?
Yeah, so for us, from a Microsoft perspective, we provide platforms and tools to enable government agencies, government contractors, and government partners in general to build and enable customer experience solutions. So, for example, we have platforms and tools that enable government agencies to automate and digitize repetitive paper and manual processes. We have tools to enable government agencies who want to innovate around chatbot experiences as a way to express citizen experience or improve citizen experience. Low-code, no-code technology, another cloud-based capability that we provide, which enables non-technical, non-developers, employees or contractors, but folks who probably know a lot of the processes and the problems, enabling them to use those low-code, no-code methodologies to develop solutions. And then finally, most recently, generative AI, and leveraging that to transform all of those types of capabilities. So for our perspective, we really are looking at this from the perspective of providing tool sets and platforms to enable innovation.
Customer experience and end user experience is vital for any product, especially for cloud services. There are several things, few things most importantly are very important. Being part of an engineering group, we always look into how can we make the user interface easy. So for the end user to use and for the cloud administrators or the service administrators who buy Palo Alto Network services to deploy, they should be able to buy the service easily and consume it for themselves and deploy it for customers, right? So ease of use is something that we worry about constantly. And the second thing is, how do we make the user interface intuitive? How the human nature, goes from one step to another, especially in security. Somebody was telling me this morning, security services should work seamlessly. Security is so innate to the service that is deployed. If it shows up itself as an issue, then it has not been deployed. So it is very important for us to integrate into the infrastructure so innately that people feel they are getting the service that they are getting, end users. However, the security is automatically built in. That is for the end user experience. From the agencies who buy our services to deploy it for themselves or for end users of different kinds, they should be able to administer and monitor and then deploy the services with ease of use. And there also we worry about how the services are easy to consume and deploy and at the same time administer and monitor. So we are looking for and constantly striving to improve user interface services in all of these aspects.
Well, that leads us into the next question about what role human-centered design plays in your organizations. Obviously, you want people to be able to be aware of the service and then be able to use it. How do you measure that? How do you figure out whether the human-centered design is working?
I think it comes back to, human-centered design. There's a lot of different methodologies out there in the industry and the different phases to implement human-centered design, but it all comes down to the customer experience. And two primary ways that we're able to measure that is one, customer feedback, whether it's the passengers at the airport, it is the disaster survivors on the ground at the disaster locations around the world, or it's actually working with the Customs and Border Patrol at the border. That's one way. The second way is kind of a more ambiguous way, but it's actually one of the important telltale signs of whether something's working well is when nobody's complaining, Ann. So DHS has been doing this for years. And a lot of organizations out here have been doing human-centered design for a long time. But now we're starting to institutionalize that methodology across all of our components to make sure that there are solid processes that can be mimicked for everyone to do. But when you're talking about human-centered design, how do we do it? So from inception to design to implementation of systems, we're designing that all around the forefront of how does the customer engage with the system? How are they getting the services and capabilities that we need to give them, and seamlessly and secure as we possibly can? So there's two primary ways. There are many other ways the department's working on, but I think those two are primarily at the front.
Wooly, you want to?
Sure. As far as human-centered design, so I'll tag on to something that Mark was talking about as far as some of the work that CBP is doing. I applaud you on that work. I just came back from vacation overseas last week, and the differences are subtle, but I definitely noticed a better and a smoother experience entering the country. And I'm going to give a shout out for global entry, because that process has changed. I signed up a few years ago. Me, my wife, and my daughter just flew through that global entry line. So if you don't have it, highly suggest you invest in that. So in general, I think the federal government is doing a great job around the work with human-centered design. I love the focus around life experiences as really the grounding by which the customer experience improvements are made. So some of those life experiences, preparing for retirement. I think some of the focus areas this fiscal year, preparing for retirement, dealing with a natural disaster, facing a financial shock. If you think about the interactions that citizens have in dealing with an agency or agencies, that's a smart approach. That life experience is sort of that grounding is a great approach to how to enable citizens' interactions with governments to be smooth across the life cycle. From a Microsoft perspective, as far as human-centered design, another way I can look at that is around, obviously we provide tools for end users to use. And so one of the things I'm particularly excited about is with the advent of generative AI, we have this concept called AI co-pilots. And so AI co-pilots, you can think about those as AI assistants within every single application or platform that you use from us. And so, for example, if you're in a Teams meeting, if I'm in a Teams meeting that I joined late or that I missed altogether, I can actually ask my Teams co-pilot, what did I miss in the past 15 minutes of this meeting? Or what did Mark say about a particular topic in this meeting? And it'll actually provide me with the summary of that. And so that's really focused on putting the human at the center in that particular application. What does that person need from this application? And how can the application anticipate that? Another example is we have a tool called GitHub Copilot. I used to be a programmer in college, but I haven't really done much with it since then. But I've got some home automation projects at home that require me to program in Python, which I didn't learn. And so GitHub Copilot as a tool that enables me to figure out how to do this code, making suggestions for me. It's anticipating problems that I'm having with the code. It's debugging my code. It's helping me to document code or helping me to understand code that someone else wrote and documenting that for me. So a number of different ways I can look at this. Let me stop there.
Robbie?
Yeah, the end user is always at the center of every product. So the way that we think about this in engineering is, how do you empathize with the end user? How are they going to use the product, right? That makes us think what kind of issues and difficulties the end user may land up using our product. Again, there are two kinds of end users, right? One is the end user who is leveraging or consuming the service, the government services, and the other user is the administrator who are buying the security services from Palo Alto Network to deploy it within their agency that could be consumed within the agency, or it may or may not be visible to the end customers. So there are two kinds of users. Another most important thing when it comes to end user experience is VPAT, that is Section 508, that the federal government mandated, where all of these cloud services will have to be accessible for people that are differently abled or people who are disabled. This is something we take very seriously. In all of our product, we are evaluating Section 508 against Section 508, and we strive to meet the Section 508 requirements, because this is very important. We take this seriously because I think it shows not only our commitment and that we really care about the end user. And I think a lot of the digital systems that are catching up to or getting to know about Section 508, which I believe is a very important thing. And again, how intuitive it is. We apply it to both to our user interface, graphical user interface, and we also apply this to our command line interface, CLI interface. So between the two, how can we enable the end user to really consume the services seamlessly is something that we constantly worry about. Again, user empathy is at the center, comes at the very beginning of our product development. And that's how we think about the end user experience.
You come from an engineering background. How do you make sure that customer experience is part of the project at the beginning and not bolted on afterwards?
Yeah, the bolted on is what happened in 90s, maybe beginnings of 2000s, right? People went and did a project either on their server or on their desktop, and they released it, and a bunch of people saying that I cannot do anything with this. They're like, okay, now let's figure out how we can, add on these things, right? That's how it worked in 90s and maybe in 2010s. But now in the cloud era, at least we do in Palo Alto Network, is we shifted the end user care, end user experience and VPAT considerations to the left. It starts from defining the product requirement. The product requirement will say, hey, these are the security plus the end user requirement it has to meet. And then by the time it goes into the functional spec, all of that requirement for the end user interface and user empathy, all of that is built into the functional spec. And when somebody is designing and writing the design spec, the design will be designed based on the requirements of the product and the functional aspect of the product. And of course, when the implementation follows, it'll tightly follow the product requirement, functional spec, and the design spec. So the implementation, will adhere to that. On top of it, when we do the QA process, in the QA process, they constantly refer to the commitment that was made to the product from the product requirement. So that's how the QA process ensures how we ensure the end user experience from ease of use, intuitiveness of the product itself, and then how it integrates into the product that enables both the administrators of the cloud services of Palo Alto Networks products and the end user experience. So that's how we have shifted everything to the left, and we believe that is the right thing to do.
A lot of people today have mentioned AI and generative AI. Where does it make sense to leverage artificial intelligence and other emerging technologies? Mark, you want to?
I'll give you a perfect example. So Will brought up about international travel. So I'll bring, because I work in the Department of Homeland Security, I'll bring up a personal experience that highlights that. My wife's Korean, so we went to a big family reunion in South Korea. We've been married 35 years. So we went back for a big family reunion. On the way back, we went to coming to the port of embarkation. And when I went there, the lines are usually long. They're usually long. But what TSA is currently piloting, so they moved me and a group of other individuals over to the side, and they said, come over here, and I didn't know what they were doing. And so one of the TSA agents came over, used his phone with back-end AI, scanned my picture, and said, you're good to go through customs. There was no contact, there was no checking passports, there was none of that. So that's a perfect example of what it means to actually improve customer experience. If you can reduce the burden on the public by the services that we're providing, it's a major win not only for the organization because we're appropriately managing taxpayer dollars, we're making it better for us. And I was a personal beneficiary of that process of what we're piloting. Don't ask me the name, man, because I don't know what the name is. I'm not managing that. But I definitely was a recipient of the technologies and stuff that we're using and we're piloting. So within a short period of time, you should see that all across the airports. So it will reduce the timeline. So that's one place it makes sense.
And Wally, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I love that example that Mark gave because no doubt there's a lot of technology in the background, but to the end user, to the person experiencing it, it's seamless. It just worked. And so, and that's a great example of when a customer or citizen would be delighted by that experience. To the question around AI or generative AI, for sure, 2023 seems to be the year of AI. The time I spent on AI last year versus this year, completely different. So from a Microsoft perspective, obviously, we are investing a lot in generative AI. We have a service called Azure OpenAI. which, by the way, received FedRAMP about 3 weeks ago. We're working with a lot of government agencies who are doing some trials and pilots and trying to figure out how this could improve the way they work. Customer experience is an obvious area. So there's several different ways AI can be part of the customer experience improvement. One that jumps off that a lot of agencies are exploring is around improving how citizens interact with agency data. Think about a chat GPT experience grounded on agency data. So in other words, you can tell this chat GPT to ignore everything else you know, just focus on this corpus of data, this corpus of knowledge that I'm going to supply you with. And so if you think about customer service interactions, that's a perfect place for that to be used. So grounding, we're seeing agencies look at grounding citizen experience with agency knowledge-based data. And so citizens can have this sort of free-form chat conversation with that chatbot, and it's replying with that expertise based on that agency's knowledge base, both internal customer experience as well as external citizen-facing examples. Another way we can think about using AI as far as customer experience would be during an interaction with a human. So think about all the times that a citizen may need to call into a call center for a federal agency. I talked about co-pilots, this concept of a co-pilot earlier. It's not just something that Microsoft can do. Agencies themselves can build co-pilot experiences. And so think about a human customer service agent with an AI customer service chatbot guiding them along that conversation with the citizen, guiding them with suggested questions to ask that citizen based on everything the citizen is saying, guiding them with solutions to propose to the citizen. So that's the second one. And then third one is that we're seeing is around going back to those that human customer service experience. So using generative AI and some other AI technologies, think about the ability to capture the entire transcript of that customer service interaction. And then AI, generative AI specifically, can summarize that conversation in almost real time to understand why are citizens calling into our call centers? What is their sentiment at the beginning of the call and at the end of the call? How are our customer service agents performing during these calls? And so taking all of that knowledge, agencies now can, they have a feedback loop through which they can become better informed around why certain call volumes are happening, why are people calling in, and that can inform other decisions like, hey, we need to update our website, or we need to update other parts of our omni-channel citizen experience because we're seeing these trends happening. Today, that's not something that's happening because if you think about the volumes of calls that come in, it's impossible to really understand what's happening during those conversations. But that's an example of what generative AI can help with.
Interesting. So, Mark, DHS has been working on something called a cloud security gateway solution. It features micro-segmentation of architectures and more visibility across hybrid cloud environments. Can you talk a little bit about that and what kind of effect it's had?
Yes, ma'am, I sure can. So we have a cybersecurity audience, so I'm sure they're familiar with that, but I'll explain it from a more general sense. Some time ago, we awarded our data center and cloud optimization contract as a multi-year award to a new vendor that's managing what we like to call our hybrid compute environment, which is our data center in Stennis, Mississippi, our co-location environments, which are around the country, and our cloud service provider environments. That solution allows us to not only see in real time what's happening in and out of those cloud environments, it actually allows for seamless integration with those environments and helps us to improve availability, which the end result is better services to the public that we serve. So it has been a very impactful solution as we move to 3.0 to allow us to seamlessly ensure our security and provide our services and capabilities at a much faster rate to the public that we serve.
Interesting. Thank you. And let me follow up on that with, you were part of a FEMA team that some years ago won a Service to Citizens program. But you've been part of the intersection of cloud computing and customer experience for a number of years. How do you see those working together, and why were you attracted to that particular segment of technology?
So, good question, Ann. I spent a lot of time at FEMA. My early time in the federal government, actually my first federal job was with FEMA as one of their cyber architects and their engineers, doing multiple things. So as I started making decisions about my career many years ago, I served 22 years in the military in service to the country. So public service was inevitable for me to kind of move to the next level. And so when I retired many years ago, I kind of migrated to FEMA because of the job that was there in cyber. Towards the end of that, many years ago now, because I've been at DHS headquarters for over 4 years now, my personal and my professional passion has been both cybersecurity and cloud. One, because I wanted to be in the middle of what's happening. Those two things are kind of at the crux of what's happening with customer service, because, I mean, regardless of what's happening on the back end, whether it's in Azure, AWS, Google, or the latest cloud service provider environment, it's all about providing seamless services to the public that we serve. And so what attracted me to that was I just wanted to be on the cutting edge of whatever was happening. AI and ML seems to be the latest talk, and I'm heavily engaged with organizations trying to take advantage of that now because I'm still in the middle of all that. But cloud and cyber are still in the middle, and they're at the nexus of all that stuff. So it's personal and professional interest, to answer your question, and I just like to keep learning new things. I'm a lifelong learner, and so I always want to understand new things. And it's great we're here with the esteemed congregations here today because I'm among friends and cohorts and people that love cybersecurity as much as I do. So,
Okay, good answer.
yeah.
To the whole panel, what kind of benefits are we beginning to see from the renewed focus on CX? We've got an executive order, we've got money being put to it. What do you see happening now that's worth commenting on?
So going back to the bolt-on days that you mentioned in 90s, the way in 90s it used to happen is that people released their products, it went into the field, and then over months or so, there were constant complaints from the end users, and then the sales guys will complain about it, and then reluctantly some support guy will make it a feature, and then it will eventually land up in engineering. So the whole cycle can go on for 6 months, 9 months, whatever. But now, in the cloud era, the focus on user interface happens within minutes or days, in the worst case. We release a product, and the cloud service get deployed, and we get immediate feedback. And this feedback loop has changed. That's one thing. How the user experience the product has changed. So we get to know about it. And another thing that has changed is a lot of the cloud services, it's like every 3-4 weeks, we keep on updating something or other in the cloud service. So we also have an opportunity to address those things faster, right? When somebody complains about a user experience and the end user experience that is not, the 100%, the satisfactory or some things we are missing, we get to address that. And this has become mainstream now. And that's one way that user experience focus actually has brought in a renewed energy to this field. At the center of all of this that we always talk about is empathizing with the end user constantly. And that is something very important in all of our products.
Wally?
Yeah, so I would say as far as the benefits that I would assess from the focus on customer experience, first of all, I'd say there is an appreciation of the importance of high citizen, high customer satisfaction, and how that relates to high trust in government, which, as we know, has been waning over the years. So there's a direct connection between how we experience our interactions with the government, how we think about the government, and how we trust the government. So I think that's the first thing I would call out. Secondly, I'd call out the focus on human-centered design. So I talked earlier about some of this really being framed around life experiences. And so that focus on human-centered design, I think, is an important sort of outcome of the CX initiative. Thirdly, I'd say as a technologist, as a person who has a passion for technology, I love the fact that this provides an opportunity through which government agencies are looking at using technology for innovation. There's a recognition that, hey, there's a lot of really transformative things that we can do with technologies like artificial intelligence that consistent with our goals around improving customer experience. The early results are positive as well. So I was on performance.gov yesterday looking at some of the early metrics around improvement in the percentages of customer satisfaction scores from citizens going up. So that's a great thing. And so I call those things out.
Appreciate Ravi's comment earlier. When we look at what we're already doing, I mean, holistically, the government has been doing the business of managing taxpayer dollars appropriately and providing the services to the American public, as we should. But the customer experience initiatives I know that we're putting in place in the department allow everybody to be involved in the decision-making process, especially the customer, as they've always been. But everybody from the beginning to the end is now a part of that. And so now there's not only an increased, enhanced focus on it, we're allowing to deliver something better, more seamlessly, and cloud is one of those enablers to allow us to seamlessly provide better customer service faster. The public is not focused on the technology. They're focused on what they came to get.
Right.
That's what's important about this. All this technology, it's great. We're all technologists. We love it. But in the end, it's just an enabler of providing what we need to do for the American public.
Thank you very much to the panel.
Thanks for listening, and thank you to our panelists. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Caracast, and be sure to listen to our other discussions. If you'd like more information on how Carasoft can assist your organization, please visit www.carasoft.com or email us at fedramp@carasoft.com. Thanks again for listening, and have a great day.